changed on me. Okay, here we go. We're going to hit this today. These are going to be specific, and you'll notice today is loading Monday. However, I am going to do this workout barefooted because I have to get on the move, and I want to stimulate my feet while I'm doing some very important moves for hip stability, especially hips that have arthritis, hips that are wonky, as Kay would say, okay? So first of all, I'm just gonna simply shift and step. Now let me tell you something. We're gonna hit these. I'm doing it barefooted because number one, I can. I have carpet here. It's low carpet. It's not like I'm gonna trip, and I'm gonna fully use my feet. If you can't do that, that's okay. So as I step, I'm going to start introducing moves that we are going to do in order to stimulate stability. So if I just do this, for instance, see how I'm rolling? See how I'm rolling in my foot? I'm lifting my heel. Okay, looky here. I'm going to push through here as I drop my shoulders. I'm going to take a big breath through my nose. Okay? But now when I step, and I'm doing this barefooted, I am going to weight load, not extensively, because as I've told people, I just found out I have to go to a memorial service at noon. And it occurred to me that I actually have to take a shower. So there's that. I hope you're laughing. Anyway, yes, this will be on YouTube for all to see. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do if you have wonky hips, hip arthritis, you're heading for, you got to keep moving. I'm trying to do a cross between fitness therapy and physical therapy, especially if you have hips that are arthritic. And when you move in certain ways, you just get that pain. I understand it. But look what I'm doing with my feet. Okay, so I'm doing some of the most important things surrounding hip strength, hip stability, and balance today. I'm going to hit it. I'm doing it barefooted. I am going to load. I'm body loading right now. But when you do a repeated step and you tighten in your tummy and you drop your shoulders and your front knee is soft, then you push your hip bones forward, you're going to feel increased pressure here, not in your knee, not in a painful way, but in a muscle stimulating way when you do just that. And if you're doing this and you're barefooted as I am today, so here I go, I stepped, my heel comes up, pushing me forward. I'm putting gentle pressure on the back ball of the foot. Take a big breath through your nose, drop your shoulders. Now I want you to push your hip forward, and you're going to feel more pressure here. That's what I want. Then if I do that and I add a few arm movements, now we're talking a lot more stability needed, because if I go like this and I open this hand back and I change my trajectory, that's all involved in stabilizing. So see, step, the heel comes up, front knee is soft, hips push forward, tummy is tight, big breath, but now I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. See that? Just that little move, that little additional move with your shoulders down. And you hear I said both shoulders down. I'm pushing that hip forward. Boy, does that make me extend my back. Right there. Then I drop back to my heel, bring that foot back. Do you see what happens when you bring your foot back? Some of you do that very quickly, and what you do is you drag it. You know why? Because if you picked it up, you would be on one leg a lot longer than you feel comfortable. That is why I'm going to encourage you to always do this, where you can put your hand on a wall, on a chair, on a counter. You get it. I'm just reminding you that when you step forward and you do these corrective moves that I'm doing right now, my heel is up. I'm gently on the ball of my foot and back. I'm going to push my hips forward so that I really extend my back and I put more pressure right here. But when I go to step back, that's when, and you see I had that little stutter step? That's when you're going to be gripping with your toes. So open your toes, hold it here for just a second, and then put it down, okay? Seriously, if you worked at this for 3 to 5 minutes, you would wake up your joints, especially your joints in your hips and your knee and your feet, okay, especially. You add this trajectory right here. See how I'm stepping forward, and then I don't just step forward. What I do is I drop my shoulders, take a big breath, tighten in. It's a bracing. You got to do that. Now I'm going to push the hips forward, and I'm going to feel more pressure right here. That means I'm contracting these muscles to keep me from falling over on my nose. Okay? Now when I go back, I have this in place in case I need it, because what am I going to do? I'm going to do a one-legged stance, but I'm not going to be scrunching up my toes. Okay? And I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. And when I want to, I put my foot down. See, we get into a habit of putting our foot down way before we want to, because we feel like we're heading south, right? We're heading for the floor. So I'm encouraging you, that's part of balance training, stability training. So here I am, shoulders down, breathe in, hips forward, keep the knees bent, take a big deep breath, go like this, go like this. See, I'm opening that shoulder. And when you do this, if you do it too fast, you're going to end up holding on to something, because it's going to be throwing you. Okay? See? Yeah, just put your hand on something. Okay? And then look at something stable out in front of you. Tighten the tummy, tighten the tummy. Drop your shoulders, take a breath through your nose. Sink to the heel in the back. Now tighten, tighten, tighten. Bring this leg up and hold it for just a little bit. Hold it, breath, breath, breath. Put it down when you want to put it down. Okay? That means you have to be on balance. That means you have to put your hand. If you're feeling like you're heading south, you got to be able to catch. Okay? So get used to doing that and having something that you need. Now I'm stepping out. So what's the chain of events that need to happen right now? This is not such a simple move. Drop your shoulders if you have arthritic hips, especially, or replaced hips, or you're heading for that. So number one, tighten, brace. That's very important. Drop your shoulders, breath through the nose. I'm sharing my load here. I'm going to bring the heel up. Now I'm pressing gently on my toes in the front. Yeah, they're flexed. They're very bent, all right? Tight tummy. Yes, tight tummy. Soften, soften. Okay? Now push the hips forward. And you're going to feel, oh man, right here. Yes, right here. Take a breath, open those toes. Okay, get ready. We're going to shift back to the heel. Get ready to bring this leg up, and you're going to be doing this. So have something where you can just barely touch it with your finger. Bring it up, get on balance. Practice this, because this is about stability. This is about how you position yourself in space. Put your foot down when you want to put it down, okay? Now let me add a little wrinkle to this. What if we did everything that we're doing right now, and I just took you through a warm-up thing with weight, holding weights? Oh yeah, so think about that, okay? So now we're gonna bring, we've worked at that, we're kind of warmed up. I want you to just swing your arms just like this. We've done many of these things before. So sometimes your hip is in such a state that you actually cannot stand on one leg by yourself, the one that's giving you trouble. Because this right here, this load would give you trouble. Then you might not be able to do that, okay? So if you can't swing your leg like this, then hip hinge and come back up. Share the load. If you can do this move, good, do this move with me. You see how I did this? Well, I'm going to do this on my legs now, just to prep myself a little bit. So instead of doing just a steady state, pull your leg to the back, push your hips forward. So instead of just holding onto that to open this hip, so it's not so tight, I'm going to do a dynamic move. What does dynamic mean? It just means moving. I'm going to do a moving stretch. And I'm not going to go way up, but if this is a problem to put weight on one hip versus the other, then you have to change something. Just do this, a hip hinge and come back. A hip hinge and come back. And every time you come back, push your hips forward. So those of you who can stand on one leg, do that. We're going to do several of those type moves, standing on one leg moves. And if you think about it, when you walk, when you ambulate, and as I'm doing this, don't let your foot swing out. Keep your toe forward and in dorsiflexion. That means this whole time I have to innervate this muscle in the front of the leg, which has everything to do with pulling that toe up so I don't trip over my own feet. Okay, so when you go back here, notice what you're doing. Because if I were with you right now doing this, number one, you tell me, oh, this is getting really tight. I'm like, yes, you're loading. So make sure this knee is soft. Drop your shoulders, big breath, toe is up. And when you come back here, you almost point your toe to the midline. Almost. See? So this knee is soft. And I'm just doing this nice swing. That really helps gently warm up, get the synovial fluid going, not only your hip, but all through your lower back, okay? So you can do both just holding on here. So you're gonna shift, soften your other knee, pull the toe up, drop your shoulders, keep your tummy super tight, big breath. So when you go back, don't let that toe go out. It almost turns in if it does anything, okay? So take a big breath again. You gotta breathe through the nose. You can exhale through your mouth if you need to. Try to breathe through your nose because I'm trying to get you to use your diaphragm. Just by closing your mouth, you will breathe through your nose. My husband used to tell me all the time to go breathe through my nose. Take a breath. Stay with me. Stay with me. Keep your knees soft over here. Take a breath. Breath. And bring it down. So that whole time, I did a dorsiflex move with my foot up, and I innervated that front muscle. Kathy knows a lot about that muscle now. And now she knows why I did so many of these dorsiflexions, because I want people to work the front of their legs. So I just go down and up because I just moved it in a steady state. So now I'm just going to take a little point flex. And every time I do a point flex with my hand gently on a counter, a wall, whatever, I will soften my knee, and I'm doing one-legged stances. So you're going to find that theme throughout this thing that I'm doing with you today. Okay. See this? Everybody that I know, that I know personally that is on with me right now has bought one of these from me, or you had one. So I'm going to take a wide stance in front of my chair. I'm going to turn here to the side so you'll see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm wide stance, and I'm going to hang on to this right here. I'm going to go to my head. I'm going to slip it down behind my back. When I slip it behind my back, I'm going to soften my knees. That's so important right now. Don't lock. Put that right back here like you're patting yourself. See? Just like that. And then come back out of it. And then you're going to hip hinge. So this is one of the main moves to help anybody that has arthritic hips. Now, you may do a hip hinge and you can't go on down because you know you're anticipating that terrible pain. So I'm saying that if you're in that position and you can't go ahead and sit down, then don't. That's okay. Or sit on a higher stool, okay? But once you've done this a couple of times, which is a hip hinge, and see when I come up here, I squeeze my gluteals. See, that's the part that a lot of people mess up with. You go into this, you're okay, but when you come up here, these are just kind of hanging there, okay? Waving at everybody. How do you like that visual? Tighten these in when you're coming up. Keep your knees soft. See, whenever I go into a hip hinge, I want to push my taillights back, but when I'm up, I gotta contract, tighten. That's what everybody leaves out. See how I'm pushing my hips forward and I'm tightening? Then push back down, hip hinge, push back down, hip hinge, tighten. Right there, take the few seconds to really squeeze tight. Then push back, then push in, then push back, then push in, tighten, 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 push back, push in, tighten, tighten, push back, push in, tighten. This one is so important. This is one of those isometric moves that can really help your hip strength and your hip stability, especially when you have arthritis. So when you do the hip hinge, I don't care if you go low, really low, or if you go high. When you come up right here, soften your knees and squeeze your gluteals as you're pushing your hips forward. See that? So I want you to be able to do this very fluidly. You don't have to go fast. You don't have to go way down deep. You just have to do a hip hinge. But when you come up, you drive yourself up with your gluteals. Right here, drive it up. Tighten those gluteals. 2 more. Here we go. I was trying to hit like 20, but I'm not sure if we did that. Take a big deep breath, tighten. Now I'm gonna go ahead and sit because I've already practiced it, right? So I'm gonna sit. I've got my little block here. And what am I gonna do? I'm gonna put it right there, okay? So when it's right there, one of the things I want you to do now is, as part of this hip strengthening, especially for people with arthritis, is number one, when you put a block here, I don't care if it's this or if it's a pillow, when you squeeze in, You do not want to just squeeze in through your knees. You want to squeeze in right up here at the groin. So that means the whole top part of your leg is squeezing in, not just your knees, okay? That is a very common misstep in this kind of a move. So see, I'm squeezing against this pillow. I'm squeezing in here. I'm on my toes. I got my heels lifted, but I am not squeezing in from my knee. I'm squeezing in from way up here in the groin. And you should be feeling that. Breath, 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 breath. Through the nose, squeeze, squeeze a little harder, just a little harder. 5, squeeze really hard, all the way up here. 4, squeeze. 3, squeeze. 2, 1. Yes. Release. Take your block. Okay. Open your hips. Tighten. Bring that block right here and just bring that leg up and do a little tiny extension. See that? Okay. So when you have wonky hips, so you open back, because what a lot of us want to do is we want to hunker down because we think that we're going to avoid the pain. Well, you just kick up another problem. So you're going to open back, drop your shoulders, big breath, bring that block, that little pad right here. Now tighten your tummy, lift the leg, and just bring that toe right up. See that? Then you come back down. Then you open back, drop your shoulders, take a breath through the nose, bring the knee up, and do a little extension, little knee extension, little knee extension, little knee extension. Okay? Because one of the things that we can do to help our hip, if we have arthritis, is we can work on our quads, which is what this whole program today is centered on. Okay, I'm going to do those 2 more times so you get it in your head. So I'm sitting here at the edge. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my hip. Then I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to tighten, brace myself. I'm going to bring that pillow right out at the shoulder. I'm going to bring that knee up and do just a little knee extension. See? Breath. Or I'm going to extend from the knee. I'm extending my foot, but I'm going from my knee. Then I come back. Then I open again. Take a big breath. Bring the knee up. So it's a extension at the knee. Take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath. And then hip hinge. Okay? Now I'm going to take a little interset. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get some mobility through the hips. So I'm putting my little pillow right here because, and we've done this one before, first thing I'm going to do is open through the chest because I watch a lot of people exercise for a lot of years. And the minute that I start to do anything that involves forward turning, what happens? They hunch and they push their back out, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to go neutral spine, thumbs back, drop. Then I'm going to drop one knee down. Once I've gone to this position, I'm going to open back again. There's that opening of the hip. And be very careful that you don't let this knee flare, okay? So here I am, thumbs are back, elbows are in, but thumbs are back, because that alone will help you open here. Drop your chin, take a big breath, really let this open. And if you have replaced hips, it gets very dicey to try to open the hip without hurting your hip or your knee. So if you have a knee and a hip replaced, yeah, we have some challenges. And if we didn't have any challenges, well, the alternative would be, I don't think we want that, right? Okay, so take a breath. I'm going to go to the other side. So I'm going to turn. I'm going to really flex my toes, keep my knee in, pull my hands back, my thumbs back, drop my shoulders, open, act like I'm just punching you right here, just pushing you back just a little bit. Keep your knee down. Breath, 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 and then come back. So those of you with knee replacements and hip replacements, that move is so beneficial in helping tight hips that are trying to draw you down like this, and that's not where you want to go, is it? Okay. I'm adding some things to some of these basic moves. The hip hinge is a big one. So if we're going to hip hinge, let's do the opposite. Okay, let's put our hands here. Let's open the hip again and look at my elbows. Number one, they're in. They're not flaring. They're in. Drop my shoulders, step out. Now I want to do the opposite of hip hinge. I want to come up just like that. See that? And I want to go up into a bridge. And I want to work with my chin. Turning, turning, turning. Keep your hips up. Keep your hips up. Keep your hips up. Keep your hips up. Ah, keep your hips up. I'll get that a little bit. Are you still doing it? I hope so. This is when Kathy always takes a break. She said, if you're not doing it, I'm not doing it. I know you. Here we go. Hips are up. You got to hold on. Do you know what I'm doing right now? Big time. I am squeezing my gluteals. Ah! And then come back down. Elbows on your knees. Back is very extended. Turn my chin. Not fast. Just turn it. Put your chin over your shoulder. Chin over your shoulder. Chin over your shoulder. Chin over your shoulder. Yeah. Come back. Do it one more time. So I'm telling you, if you have wonky hips, this is number one. You have to be strong in your upper body. That's number one. There's lots of different ways that they'll show you when you're in what's called prehab. That means they want you to be strong enough to actually have the hip or the knee operation, because you have to be able to manage your own body weight with your upper body. This is one of the best ways to do it, y'all. Drop your shoulders, number one. Take a breath, number two. Now you're going to press down on your hands with your elbows in, and you're going to lift those hips, but you're not just going to come up and do a bunch of repetitions. No, we're going to hold it here, and we're going to squeeze the gluteal like really tight right here. Take a breath. Take a breath. Really squeeze it. Just pretend some nurse is coming at you with a big old shot. Yeah, squeeze. And then come back down. Okay? If you would do just that move. So this is a modified bridge. So we do bridging, in the floor. There's a lot of people with wonky hips that avoid getting in the floor. Shocker. Because it hurts. And they haven't been going through how to get myself up from. Okay, so hip hinging. And then the opposite of the hip hinge. So now I'm going to hip hinge, right? So here I am, hip hinge. And I'm going to put my hands right here. I might have to do this. When I was heading for my hip replacement, there was no way I could go from here to here without excruciating pain. So I used my hands back here to help me trajectory of getting up. I know what I'm talking about with this. I've been through it. Take your hands in a V, put them right here, but everything else stays. You got to extend. You got to brace. And most importantly, and one that sometimes I'm just take it for granted, you got to exhale. You got to breathe. You can't hold your breath. Here we go. Drop your shoulders. Exhale, push down and come up, or push down here. One or the other, whatever, okay? Now we're going to do a tandem stance. So many of you have done tandem stances with me for many years. I've been talking about this, but now that everybody is getting so much information, and there's some good information, not so good information as well, on the internet, etc. Now everybody knows what is a tandem stance, okay? Well, when you're having hip issues, when you're having feet issues, when you're having knee issues, it's not so easy to just do a tandem stance. So I'm telling you that a forward 1 or 2 walks, see how I'm trying to stay on the tightrope? Yeah, you're pretending that you're trying to stay on the tightrope. Now, if you need to step out to hold your balance, of course, step out. I would rather you have a wall or a chair, something that you can just reach out and touch. See that? Now I'm going to take my foot back. I feel my heel with my toe. Now you can be doing all this with shoes. You can do a tandem stance anywhere, okay? Drop your shoulders, take a big breath through the nose. You're bracing, but here's the deal. Your knees are unlocked, okay? Now I'm going to take this leg and go behind. And I'm doing a simple body weight tandem stance. And for some of us, it's not so simple, especially when you have wonky hips, arthritic hips, hips replaced, knees replaced. Your proprioception is, and add to that, what if you had plugged sinuses? You better believe that is going to affect your balance. If you have eustachian tubes, in your ears, in your nose, your sinuses are plugged, yes, your balance is going to be impaired. So now, as I do my tandem stance, and I have my chair here if I need it, if I'm going too far, now I'm going to go across my midline. And I'm going to go across my midline. But every time I do that, I'm going to say rib cage up. So your knees are soft. Step back. Stay on that line. Stay on that line. Stay on that line. Say rib cage up. Rib cage up. Now take the front leg and go back. Okay? Soften your knees. Go across. Go across. And then come right here. Come right here. And bring that leg forward that's in back. Soften your joints. Do one more step, soften your joints. One more step, soften your joints. Take a big deep breath, drop your shoulders, and stand right there. Okay, now one last one that's very, very important, and I'm going to use my chair as if it was a wall. It's got to stay solid, number one. That's why if I had a wall right here, I would be doing at a wall or a door. A door would be perfect because then you can hang on to the door knob. But see, I'm right here, okay? This is my wall. So what am I going to do? Again, I'm going to go to the leg that's closest to the wall. This is my wall, okay? And I'm going to soften this knee, and I'm going to push into that chair. See, I'll grab it here and I'll push into the chair with the whole outside of my hip. Yeah, so I'm putting pressure. So this is one of those fantastic isometrics. So just really hold that leg in there. Push the whole hip into that wall. This is my wall, my chair, that I'm pulling back toward me. And then I release and put it down. Then I go to the other side. So it's the leg closest to the wall. and I just bring my knee up. I drop my shoulders. I soften my knee, and I press against that chair. See, I'm pulling it this way, pushing with my knee, pushing with my hip. That whole leg is pushing. You're setting up a real push-pull phenomenon here that is a lot of muscle contraction. Stomach is tight, breathing, pushing, pulling. Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath, and release and come down. You might want to do that 6 times and push and pull for 10 seconds to maybe 20 seconds each, okay? You can go up to any wall. I wouldn't go up to a person standing there and say, here, let me push on you for a little bit. Anyway, okay, back to where we started. We went through some very specific moves today. Pillow seated squeeze, yes. We did a push on a wall or with our outside, with our inside, that's adductors, abductors. We did tandem standing. We did tandem standing with crossing. Then we did hip hinging. We did high hip hinging, and then we did low hip hinging. And when you come out of the hip hinge, you gotta squeeze your gluteals. Some of you are doing that whole hip hinge and you never tighten. So notice if that's what you're doing, okay? Ending off with, we're going to just push a leg back and go into a forward knee and keep the heel down and back and just be right there. So a gentle stretch on the Achilles. Oh my goodness, that helps so much. So the leg forward, drop my shoulders, big breath. Really straighten that leg, keep that heel down. And if you feel tight in your Achilles and in your foot, then that's the one you should spend a little bit more time on, okay? And then come back. I was gonna grab my weights, but I'm running out of time because I have to actually go take a shower. Anyway, I hope everybody benefited. Here we go. Stop.